You know, if you walk through certain neighborhoods in Brooklyn, it's like you've stepped through a portal into another time. You see men in these long black coats and hats, women in modest dresses, and you hear Yiddish being spoken on the street. It's the world of New York's Hasidic Jews, a community that has somehow managed to keep its 18th century traditions alive and kicking, right in the heart of one of the most modern cities on the planet. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this fascinating and, let's be honest, often misunderstood community.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get into their history, how they ended up in New York in the first place. Then, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of their daily lives, the rules and rituals. After that, we'll look at the roles of men, women, and family, which might surprise you. Then, we'll tackle the tough stuff, the conflicts that happen when their world collides with ours. And finally, we'll see how they're handling life in the 21st century.
All right, our story starts right here in Brooklyn. We're talking about places like Williamsburg, Borough Park, and Crown Heights. These aren't just neighborhoods, they are the absolute epicenters of Hasidic life in America. They really do operate like these little self-contained towns tucked right inside the massive city of New York. So, how many people are we talking about? The number is around 200,000. Now, you might think, okay, that's not a huge number, but here's the kicker. It's one of the fastest growing Jewish communities in the entire world, and that's all thanks to high birth rates and a really, really powerful sense of community that holds them all together. Okay, first up, how did this all happen? How did a movement that started in 18th century Europe rebuild itself and start thriving in modern America? It's a pretty incredible story of survival and revival, born out of a desire for a more joyful, personal connection to God.
So at its core, Hasidic means pious ones, but the real keyword here is joy. Their whole practice is built around joy, song, and dance as a way to connect with God. If you've ever seen a Hasidic wedding, you know what I'm talking about. The energy, the dancing, it goes for hours. It's all about a passionate, personal faith.
And what a journey it's been! From their origins in Eastern European towns to the absolute devastation of the Holocaust, which nearly wiped them out. But after World War II, a small number of survivors made their way to America and started to rebuild, from almost nothing. And charismatic leaders, especially the Lubavitcher Rebbe, helped turn these small, shattered groups into a global force. So, how do those deep beliefs play out day to day? Well, life is governed by an incredibly detailed system of Jewish law. And I mean detailed. It covers literally everything. What you eat, how you dress, how you pray, how you do business. It's an entire blueprint for living. And these are the pillars that hold that blueprint up. You've got Shabbat, the weekly day of rest where everything just stops from Friday sundown to Saturday night, strict kosher dietary laws, daily prayer for men 3 times a day. And at the center of each community, you have the Rebbe, who's so much more than a rabbi. He's a guide for every aspect of life. Let's just take a quick look at that daily prayer for men. It's a very physical, symbolic ritual. First, they wrap themselves in the prayer shawl, the tallit, which kind of creates a personal, sacred space. Then they put on tefillin, these small leather boxes. One is strapped to the arm, facing the heart, to bind their emotions to God. The other goes on the head to bind their mind. It's a powerful daily reminder. All right, let's talk about the social fabric. Family is everything. It's not just a family unit, it's seen as the absolute cornerstone of their entire world, essential for continuing the Jewish people. And within that family, the roles for men and women are incredibly distinct and probably not what you'd expect. And here is the central paradox of this community. You have a world where, religiously, men are in charge. Their main job is to study sacred texts their whole lives. So, who pays the bills? The women. They are very often the primary breadwinners. And the irony is, this gives them way more interaction with the secular, outside world than the men have. This quote really gets to the heart of the modesty rules, like why married women cover their hair. From their perspective, it's not about oppression. It's about preserving a woman's energy, her inner power, and keeping it for herself and her family. It's a reframing of beauty as something internal and sacred. So you can forget about Tinder or years of dating. Marriages here are arranged through a matchmaker called a shadchan. The parents do some serious research on each other's families. Then the couple meets, maybe once or twice, very briefly, and if it's a yes from both, they're engaged. The whole process is built on shared values and family background, not romantic courtship. But look, living this way, so separate but still inside a modern city, is bound to create some friction. There are tensions with their neighbors over things like housing and political power.
And for some people born inside the community, the strict rules can feel suffocating, creating this powerful urge to break free.
This quote just says it all. That was a resident in upstate New York talking about the Hasidic community's plan to expand their own self-governing village. As their population booms, they need more space, and that can lead to some really intense political and cultural clashes with their neighbors. And you can really see the two different types of conflict here. The external one, in Kiryas Joel, was basically a political fight over land, which they solved by literally creating their own town. But the internal conflict, that's so much more personal. We're talking about a family who felt they had to leave just to give their kids a basic modern education. And in doing so, they had to cut ties with everyone they've ever known. And that's the voice of someone who left. For those who feel trapped, the very rules and structures that give others a sense of meaning and community can feel like prison walls. Leaving is seen as a huge betrayal, so you're often totally shunned. The price of freedom is losing your family, your friends, your entire past. So this brings us to the biggest question of all. In a world of smartphones, social media, and constant connection, how does a community that values separation even survive? Well, it's a very delicate balancing act, a constant negotiation between holding on and adapting. Education is a huge part of their strategy. Just look at the curriculum for boys. It's about 75% religious studies. Their focus is on becoming scholars of Jewish texts. But for girls, there's often more secular education. And that's a practical choice, because remember, they're often the ones who need the skills to go out and make a living in the modern world. And this right here is the perfect snapshot of that push and pull. On one hand, rabbis see the internet as such a threat that it's often banned or heavily filtered. But in that exact same world, you have amazing pioneers like Rachel Freier, the first Hasidic female judge, or women starting an all-female ambulance corps. They're not just rejecting modernity, they are selectively adopting the parts that can coexist with their values. So in the end, it's a story of incredible resilience. It's about a community's ability to create and maintain its own world on its own terms. A world that is somehow both deeply rooted in the past and finding ways to function in the present. And that really leaves us with this final thought. As our world gets more and more connected, what is the future for a community built on the idea of being separate? Can it last? And maybe the bigger question is, in a world where so many people feel disconnected, what can we learn from their unbelievable dedication to a life of community, purpose, and meaning?